Ooh, officially recording in progress. I have been excited about this since Robbie said he would be interested in doing this because I grew up vegan, and the idea of having vegan gumbo, I realized I have actually grown up eating this, but never called it gumbo because anytime I've talked to anybody, gumbo meant a pile of meat with a little of other stuff. So I guess, Robbie, what do you consider gumbo to be?
Okay, or what I consider gumbo is how it originally originated. So it's a combination of vegetables and meat mixed together with a special sauce called a roux and cooked for anywhere from 45 minutes to 4 hours. But because it's 2021, the 21st century, why couldn't we just update the gumbo recipe so it's more inclusive of different appetites and palates? So that's why I started making it, because not everybody can eat gumbo because they're vegan or vegetarian or for religious reasons as well.
So my mentor is actually from Louisiana, and she gave me recently this cookbook from 1967, and I opened it up, and there's 12 types of gumbo in here, and two kinds don't have meat in it. Now, back then, they did things like alligator, rabbit. Basically, it was like whatever you could get, right? Um, and so, did I mark it? Let's see, gumbo, chicken, chicken and okra, chicken and oyster, chicken, oysters and sausage, sausage, duck and guinea, goose, goose with oysters. Oh, I don't know. That kind of sounds a little over the top. And then the two non-meat ones, green, and then okra, and then we still got seafood and then shrimp and okra. And so that's was the different kinds there. Now, I am a little confused. Maybe Robbie, you could enlighten me. What's the difference between Creole and Cajun?
So as far as cooking, the two cultures are blended together as far as cooking because they're both in the Louisiana area and they often cross paths. Now, ethnically, there is a difference. So Creoles tend to be, if you go to Louisiana today, they tend to be modern day looking African Americans with hints of French or Haitian ancestry, along with like the original African slaves, whereas Cajuns are like the classic people you see from like, out in the swamp. So they still have the French names and they speak French in a really interesting way that's more of a pidgin language of French than actual French. And they're like, well, when you think of like country people, that's Cajun. So when you see a Cajun, it's very entertaining. At my old job, there were two people I met from Cajun country, and they're very interesting.
So what my mentor said, the difference is Cajun. I'm getting them backwards, but Cajun is French influence, and Creole is African influence by way of the Caribbean.
Exactly.
But over time they very much blended together, but they also very much have a self-identity for each culture. So
Exactly.
and so now I did talk to some people in other countries because your recipe has canned beans, and I talked to someone in South America, and they said, yeah, canned beans, they cost like $3 a can. Nobody eats canned beans. And so I was just like, well, I grew up eating beans, but most of the beans we get, if you get like dried beans, are super old. I remember being in Mexico and having some beans that were picked like 2 months before, and they cooked in like 30 minutes. It was just like this melt in your mouth bean versus the bean we get from a store here could be 5 years old. Which is why right now in the pressure cooker, I've got your 3 types of beans cooking just from scratch, but I also have the canned beans because, let's see, which way do I turn this? I don't know. I'll try to. There you can kind of see behind me a can rack. And so literally the whole wall behind me, these are just, I just got canned beans I can just pull out. So I do that pretty regularly. So, yeah. I actually eat a lot of beans.
I mentioned it before, the thing I found with, I cook dry beans in a crock pot. And if you add acid like tomatoes early, the things will never cook. That's been my experience. I'm sure there's a chemical reason for it, but so I always wait till the last, after the beans are cooked, to add like, tomatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, very much so. You don't, yeah, I forget the reason, but you're very much correct. So let's see. Robbie, you ready to get cooking?
I am ready to get cooking.
All right. It's just like, I went and got, now I tend to not like green peppers, but for your recipe, because I feel like it's going to be cooked to death, it won't really have too much of the green pepper taste. So that's just my personal preference. But I did mix your spice seasoning together. And it is, I made some a couple days ago. I just got 3 cans of beans, dumped it in, and put some of that spice seasoning without like a big elaborate, process. And just that was phenomenal. So I'm excited to, step it up. So.
Awesome.
All right.
And I just want to give a couple of disclaimers before I cook. So 1, I have 3 cats. So if you see a cat run across the keyboard, that is them trying to say hi and be socialized. Socialized. 2, I'm not the best person to cut vegetables, so feel free to laugh, but as long as the job gets done, it gets done. And or to address your question about why I use canned beans over fresh beans, it's just quicker.
Yeah.
Because I suck at cooking beans from fresh, and I have really bad horror stories of trying to cook beans from like.
Oh, I've done black beans where I cooked them like put them on low and cooked them all night long. Got up cooked them like started at like noon, cooked them for like 4 or 5 hours. Then I'm like, I have to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Went to bed, left it on cooking all night long. The next day they still weren't cooked. That was just like
old beans.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, but I don't know. Well, if I can knock everything down, I can just swivel this new camera. There's my rice and beans and lentils.
Wow.
So I do eat a lot of, from scratch, but you can see on the stove, on the table right here, this is my pressure cooker, and it cooks it in 30 minutes once it gets up to a boil, but then it takes probably a good 45 minutes after that for the pressure to relieve. So that's why I didn't think we had enough time to run through the whole process. So I started cooking them ahead of time in this cooking class. So, all right. But see, I mixed up. I actually originally wrote Cajun on it. And then I was like, wait a second, this is Creole. And then I was just like, wait a second, what's the difference? And so I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feeling. It says Cajun Creole seasoning on it. But And let me find that. Yeah, if you want to start chopping, I'll find that seasoning mix here.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, what I usually do is I chop the celery because it's the easiest and you get a lot out of it. So so start chopping away on the celery if you're cooking with me.
All right, that's fine.
So ladies and gentlemen, the most time-intensive part of making vegan gumbo is the chopping of vegetables and waiting for your delicate mixture to simmer to the taste you want for the spices to get absorbed so you can eat it. So those are the two most time-consuming things about making vegan gumbo.
Do you feel like the longer you cook it, the better, or not? It doesn't really matter.
That's actually a great question, and it's true. It just depends on how hungry you are. So if you're really hungry, you can eat it right away. But the longer you let it simmer, and if you eat it a couple of days later, it's even more tasty with the spice, and it's spicy if you like spice.
Robbie, how are you chopping the celery? Is it bite-sized pieces or something different?
That's a great question. So I have my celery stalks, and usually what I do is I chop it up to bite-sized pieces.
Okay.
Because with gumbo, there's two ways of eating it, and here's a family secret. So don't take my family secret and make a restaurant out of our family secret. So traditionally, when you eat gumbo, you have the gumbo and they put the rice in it. So therefore, you can't have big pieces of vegetables in there because it's not a soup where you can like kind of sip on it as a broth and then eat it later. It's a gumbo, so you're meant to eat everything at once. Now, what my family does is we make the gumbo and we just pour it all over the rice like it's a jambalaya. But because of the roux, it's still a gumbo.
That reminds me, I need to start my rice.
I always forget to do rice. Yeah. But one thing, I mean, I like the pressure cooker. I can like cook the beans, then add all the flavors to it, and the rice, and then cook the rice in the same pot. I mean, we grew up, we always just did, you know, one big pot. Right.
But you got to do your roux in there someplace.
Oh, I guess I shouldn't put everything in the pot yet. Let's put it in a bowl.
Exactly. So when making gumbo, the roux is one of the last things you do because you would actually, depending on what kind of gumbo you make the roux first because the roux is what gives it its color. And you add your mixture into the roux. You let it cook together for anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes, and then you add in the additional material.
All right, so chopping up celery and onions.
So normally I save my onions for last because they make me cry.
Okay.
Wow.
I tend to put onions in everything, so I guess just cooking makes me cry.
Onions are excellent because they provide a lot of nutritional benefits. So I love eating them. That and garlic.
Now, could you just basically chop up and put any type of vegetables in it? Or is there some you feel like you just should never put in?
So it's funny you mentioned that because I know you said you don't like green peppers. So there was a time in which I didn't have any green peppers available. So I went to the grocery store. They didn't have any. Instead of going to another grocery store, I just bought some red and yellow peppers. So I used those, but the taste of the gumbo becomes really different. It becomes sweeter, which kind of throws it off if you're not used to that type of gumbo.
So I remember something. One thing my mentor from Louisiana said, the word gumbo is actually from Africa and it means okra. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's where like the majority of gumbos tend to have okra as a thickener. But then over time, it seems like okra has become harder and harder to get. And it seems like many people have switched over to the easier accessible roux style, which, it's like basically brown flour, right?
Exactly. So since this is a vegan gumbo, normally with roux, and I guess it depends on the recipe, but I'm not giving away that family recipe, but just for the sake of this gumbo we're making, we utilize oil and flour to keep it, vegan friendly for our vegetarian and vegan friends.
Now, I tend to be gluten sensitive, so I'm going to try to do it with a rice flour. I know it won't be as good, but it'll be better for my stomach. But
so once you finish chopping up your celery, you can start chopping up the green peppers or whatever vegetable you fancy. There's no particular order as long as you chop up your vegetables.
I mean, it does seem like the idea is to try to get stuff that has a lot of volume.
Yeah, because the thing with gumbo is like everybody knows the main course is the meat, but it's really hard to have a good gumbo that has 5 pounds of meat, which is the reason why you utilize other things to like add, as you said, to the volume.
All right. I don't know what it is for me and green peppers.
Like me and cucumbers. They don't agree with me.
Oh man, I love cucumbers. Have you? I once had a Chinese stir-fried cucumber. It was just like not something you normally think of.
Well, I spent time in Israel and every salad's got cucumber. Israeli salads, I got cucumbers and they're chopped up so you can't take them out.
Yep. All right, so I also got these really nice poblano peppers, and I thought I'd put one of those in.
So peppers are a really good addition to the gumbo. It just depends on how spicy you want to make it, but usually just with the Cajun seasoning and additional black pepper and cayenne pepper, you will have a nice tinge to your gumbo.
Yeah, these are just giant poblano peppers, and they have almost no spice in them. So actually, what I should have done is just, for my personal taste, is just put these poblano peppers in instead of the green peppers. But I think it'll be fine. I'm basically making like a huge pot of it for myself and my family. So, all right.
So this is the best thing about gumbo, depending on how hungry you are. A full pot of gumbo, at least the quantity we're making, will last you anywhere from 3 days to a whole week.
I mean, unless you're me, then it's, I don't know, I eat a lot.
I have a question which you'll probably answer as you go along, but I know you're using the roux, but do you or can you use like a chicken broth or stock for the liquid in it?
So that's an excellent question, and I'll tell you as soon as we get to that part.
Okay. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Let's see here. So I have cut up a stalk of celery, an onion, one green pepper, and 2 poblanos.
Well, that sounds really good, Or.
And it's just all in this bowl. But let's see what. I'm trying to remember the recipe now. I should have it pulled up. I need to get the beans out.
So, or you're not putting garlic.
I thought I would cheat, and I have this sitting around I normally make red beans and rice, and somehow this has been sitting in my house for like a year.
Beautiful.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to use that for today, but I eat a lot of red beans and rice. I don't know. I just really like it. So
you might be Cajun, or I don't know. You might be Cajun.
So let's see. I need black beans, pinto beans, and I forgot the third bean. I'll have to look it up.
So black beans, pinto beans, and you can use kidney or red beans.
Black beans, pinto beans. Okay, black beans, kidney beans, and then these are pinto beans. And then I need some flour for roux. Yeah, I was gonna put the spice mix in the chat for people.
Yeah, please do, because not everybody can like find Cajun seasoning in some places. Because
actually, I went online and almost every Cajun seasoning mix on YouTube says add seasoning salt. And I was like, seasoning salt is a blend of spices that nobody knows what's in it. So every Cajun or Creole recipe that I found in like my 20-minute search on the internet had seasoning salt in it, so they're keeping something a secret.
Of course, because gumbo is big business. So if you ever go to Louisiana or Cajun country, I was in New Orleans for about a week, and their economy is based off of Mardi Gras and gumbo. Gumbo in Louisiana is almost as ubiquitous as pho in Vietnam or tacos in Mexico. It is big business and it's serious.
So I do have some ground up okra. What do they call that? What it's spelled filet, isn't? So what's in this Cajun Creole seasoning mix is, I got like red chili flakes, paprika. Now the paprika I had was from the Amish, and the one they do is hickory smoked paprika. So I think that might have I put less paprika than the recipe called. It called for 3 tablespoons, and I just put 1 because I knew that the hickory smoke was really strong. So the recipe that you provided said red chili flakes, half a teaspoon, 3 tablespoons of paprika, 1 tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. I had roasted garlic powder, which is a lot stronger, so I put half as much garlic powder as the recipe said. And then it went to 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of oregano, and the most important thing, 1 tablespoon of cayenne. Now, I've of course followed that recipe and put it in this container, and then I ended up with all the cayenne at the top of the container because I kept layering it. I kept putting that in and put another layer and mixing it, and then my last bit I ended up with a layer of cayenne at the top, and that was a little too strong.
I bought a pre-made one from the store.
Yep.
It has a lot of stuff in it. Salt, paprika, celery seed, garlic powder, black pepper, coriander, cumin, onion powder, red pepper, oregano, basil, ginger, fenugreek, dill seed, mace, cardamom, cinnamon.
They basically want you to I remember. Oh, keep going if you still had stuff.
Oh
sorry.
yeah, there's a few more. Okay, turmeric, cane sugar, silicon dioxide.
They basically want you to not be able to make the mix.
Yeah, well, that's why I bought it. I was like, oh, I don't have I only have like half of this stuff, and I don't care for coriander, so I didn't want to buy it on its own.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, they put
You know
all
what,
that stuff in there and then charge you twice what it costs if you just mix it
So
yourself.
Yeah.
do you have, does cilantro for you taste like soap?
Yes,
Okay, so coriander is cilantro seeds.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so-
there's a Egyptian dish that I make. What's it called? Koshari. And it calls for coriander, and I basically just I have a black pepper that has some coriander in it, and I substitute that because the coriander itself is just too much for me.
Yeah, I always wondered. I have yet to meet any Latin American who has that genetic that cilantro tastes like.
Ah,
So I don't know.
0% Latin Americans.
Just
Well,
like
I'm on a low salt diet, which is one of the reasons I don't eat out much. And so anytime you get those spice mixes, they've always got a bunch of salt in them. So
Yeah.
I just avoid them. as
yeah, I
much
have
as I can.
a local farm that they make a bunch of different spice mixes, and I can't buy most of them because they're mostly salt herb blend. But I've been buying these ones that are just ground. So like this one's herb de flora, and it's just, you know, savory herbs, thyme, marjoram, rosemary, oregano, lavender, or poultry seasoning, which has got celery, black pepper, sage, and, you know, so those ones. But yeah, it's
Well, for people that don't want to have salt, Costco sells what they call mixed organic salt-free spice. And it's got a lot of these same things we're talking about, but no salt.
so
I could read off the list, but it's just about as long as the one you were reading earlier.
yeah, I remember. So I haven't really spent almost any time in Louisiana, but I once drove down to the Huma Indian Reservation to work on a little solar system. And so I stopped at one of those roadside stands to get some food. And I was just like, man, I really like this sauce. That was, you know, oyster poor boy or something like that. And so I asked them, what's in the sauce? It was ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise with a little spice. They wouldn't tell me what the spice
dressing.
was. I was just like, so, you know, the simplest things are usually the best, you know? And so, I mean, this mix that Robbie gave me is a blend of like this savory herbs of, you know, thyme, oregano, garlic, you know, like what I would consider like more Italian, and then the spicy stuff of black pepper, cayenne, and the savory of paprika. But I mean, paprika is the biggest one on there. That's like 3 tablespoons of, so, but oh man, this is like, yeah, I made like a whole, I don't know, 2-pound container full. So
yeah, I use that.
All right.
I use the smoked paprika.
I think I'm getting ahead of Robbie here. Let's see what's next. Let me find the.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, once you have cut up all your vegetables, now you take it to the back, set it aside, and let's make the roux.
I rue the day that you said that.
So I am switching camera angles now.
Oh, yeah. So let me.
Should we prep the garlic as well, or does that come later?
Robbie, did you hear her? She wanted to know if they could prep the garlic. I'm of the mind to prep everything.
Well, you're muted, Robbie, on that device.
Yeah.
Unmute. All right.
There you
So
go.
when you make your gumbo, you should want to like cut up everything so you can cook it all at the same time. And it just saves so much time. So when I make gumbo for family, or if I have a guest coming over, I do all my cutting and preparation in advance so that I can just throw everything in the pot at the same time.
Okay, I'll probably just crush my garlic then because I'm feeling lazy.
That
Because
is
I mean, it's
fine,
going to be
Emma.
cooking for, I mean, ideally you want it to cook at least 30 minutes, I would say.
That's exactly it.
I mean, really, the longer the better.
Exactly.
This is one of those things where if you cook it quick, then you want to let it sit and then cook it, eat it the next day.
Yeah.
Really, I don't know what it is, but savory things tend to, like, if you let them set, tend to do a lot better. So
That is very true. So for anybody who's ready, I'm about to show you how to make a roux, one of the most important parts of the gumbo.
all right.
Recording in progress.
Uh-oh. What was that?
My other phone to get the angle. Actually,
Okay.
He's getting feedback because he's got two devices.
Now you're muted on this one. Sorry.
So
There
the
you
key
go.
to making the roux is you want to heat your pan up to a little bit, but you want to have it on a low heat because the thing with roux is that it easily burns. It burns quickly, and unless you want to have burnt gumbo or have a hard time cleaning it, like keep your oil on a low heat, and you add it to the pan.
So you really want to keep it on the lowest heat possible then.
So I want to say the lowest heat possible. I would keep it like, from middle level to a little bit lower, but you don't want to have it at a high heat. So as your oil is heating, you're going to gradually add flour into the oil.
I guess I probably shouldn't have put coconut oil. That will give it a sweetness. I should have.
I think you have a sweet tooth, or
Yeah, I don't really do sugar, but yeah, I love coconut oil.
yeah,
So,
coconut.
sorry, can we get a ratio on approximately how much, just equal amounts flour and oil?
So for the oil, you want to have enough oil where it coats the pan. It's about like an 1/8 inch thick of oil. And for the flour, so it's up to you on how you make the roux. So for this, if you can see it, is I poured a lot in here because the more flour you pour, the darker the roux is. Now you want a really light colored roux, you put a little bit of flour in there. So the more flour you add, it affects the level of darkness for your gumbo.
All right.
So I have made gumbo a few times, and this is the part I always feel like I mess up because it just says make roux.
So roux is also another secretive ingredient for gumbo because I had a coworker who was born in New Orleans and he said his grandma and some of her friends would literally spend hours making a roux, like 3 hours or more. And they would just sit there and stir the pot for hours on end.
So how is it any different than just gravy? Am I
That's a
being
good question.
insulting?
You're not being insulting. It's just a cultural thing, but you're absolutely right because I never thought of it before, but it's essentially gravy. That's a good observation.
Yeah, it's fat and flour together. So it could be butter or it could be bacon drippings or like you say, from making the turkey and all that stuff.
That's exactly right, Fred. So I'm not trying to give away family secrets, but you can utilize a different base that's soluble to mix with the oil, and that'll definitely give it its flavor. So if you're cooking a meat gumbo, you probably want to use something other than oil mixed with flour.
So basically, if you cook meat, you don't waste the fat. You add some flour to it, make a roux, and then keep going.
Exactly.
I mean,
Because once you have your roux and let's see, you probably can't see it. I'll try to move my little camera over. So as you can
Like if
see,
you had fat back or something like that in there.
I mean,
yeah. So as you can see,
the thing I
my
think
roux
that's
is
very
nice gold
interesting,
color.
that what's considered gourmet food now is honestly poor people's food. It was all the
Yeah.
like leftovers that, you know, the rich people threw away, so the poor people figured out ways to make it taste really good. And
Exactly.
it's all the stuff that's rare, right? Like you don't have very much of it, so now it's considered gourmet because it's hard to get. But
Exactly.
just
And that's
don't,
the
you know,
majority,
basically,
that's
if
the
you have the
majority of
mentality
soul
of not
food.
wasting anything, you are now a gourmet chef. I don't know. Probably not that easy, but
Yeah, but or you're absolutely correct because most of soul food cooking originated from that concept where people gave their help people in quotations, you know, whatever was left over, and they figured out a way to make it tasty.
Yeah, and that's where greens come from, because that's just whatever greens you had, those are the greens.
Exactly.
oh yeah, when I was down in the Caribbean, delicacy was something called callaloo, and it was just like this very bitter kind of wild green, and like people absolutely loved it because it was hard to find, I guess.
When I was in the Caribbean sailing, we got these greens, and they said, yeah, it's callaloo, man. You make soup out of that. So of course we chopped it all up and, you know, put it in a pan and stuff. And it turns out that you've got to cut the leaves kind of off the stems and stuff.
Oh, the stems are really fibrous and
Yeah, exactly. It tastes like fiberglass.
well, it's also like, I mean, essentially, yeah, it's like got a lot of strings in it, and it's not. You
Exactly.
can't
We
chew
found
it.
that out the hard way.
All right,
I
so-
think I did the first time I went to the farmer's market in the Caribbean. I just chopped it all up like you do spinach, and then I realized the stems were not. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now I'm sure that they don't waste anything, so I'm sure they have some way of like eating the stems too. But
probably feed it to the animals, maybe.
Yeah, so if everybody has got their roux to their appropriate color, or
oops, I'm behind then. How did that happen? Okay, so I got the oil heated up. So I need to slowly burn flour, right?
correct, yeah.
Okay, I got behind. I was distracted chopping garlic and acting all smart and pompous about my knowledge. I don't know. All right.
That's why you're chef, or because you have a lot of knowledge to share.
Yeah, I was still acting all like. Anyway, not paying attention.
Yeah.
All right.
So, or if you don't mind, I'm gonna skip ahead as you prepare your roux.
Yep.
But once you're caught up, you can do it. So essentially, once your roux is to the appropriate heat or your color, you slowly turn up your roux mixer so that it's warm, because now you're gonna simmer your vegetables for 2 to 5 minutes.
So you didn't add any water to it. You just basically it's just oil and flour.
Correct.
But you didn't add too much flour to it, so it's still liquidy. So you still have oil to fry the veggies.
Exactly. But
good,
you bring up
good
a
thing
good
I
point.
figured that out, because
You bring up a good point, because for vegan gumbo, you are supposed to utilize vegetable broth, but I forgot to buy vegetable broth, so I had to use tap water.
or you could you have these cans. You could pour the liquid from the beans.
Use the bean liquid.
I like the way Or thinks.
It's just like,
That is true.
Use every
And
part
I
of the
did
I
can.
better
find
open these
vegetable
cans then.
broth.
Oh, there he's got a little stuff. Yeah, cans are a way to Howard's heart.
Don't waste any part of the can.
Can talk.
Oh, let's see. I'm supposed to put the liquid. Not yet. I'm not getting ahead there.
Exactly. So, or you make your roux, and then once your roux is made, you put your vegetable mixture in there, and you let it simmer from 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay, I think I chopped up way too many vegetables for this, but I'm making 2 batches. I'm making one with the cans, and then I'll make one in the
You know
pressure
what?
cooker.
It's absolutely okay, because it's better to have more food than less food. Trust me.
Yeah,
Robbie,
That's
do you
true.
ever use bouillon cubes instead of a stock?
So now that's a great point. So I've cooked gumbo in different places I travel to, and as you know, when you travel to different countries, ingredients isn't readily available. So fortunately, when I made gumbo, chicken stock or broth was always available, but you can utilize bouillon cubes. For example, I made a Chinese dish for my host in Colombia, and they didn't have stock, so I used chicken bouillon, which is a great substitute.
Honestly, I never use broth because I never could convince myself to pay that much money for basically some liquid soup. So, I mean, I actually,
Yeah, but you save all your stuff, so you do make stock.
oh,
Or
I make my own, yeah, but I've never bought. So what I do is like any of those onion tips we cut off and any of those vegetable pieces that weren't rotten that we just chopped off now, I don't throw that away. I save that in a freezer bag, a gallon freezer bag until it's full. And then I just put it and I slow cook it for about 2 hours. And I make vegetable broth. I strain out the bits and then I just freeze that. Yeah.
yeah, and you can also save chicken parts and stuff like that too if you want chicken broth.
Hey, Fred, this is a vegan cooking show. Come on.
Well, if Fred ever wanted to make his way to Cleveland, I can make him my family or my real gumbo. If he ever wanted to come to Cleveland, he's more than welcome.
I never thought I would hear that. Come to Cleveland to have some real gumbo. But that's the funny thing about the world now is we have cross-cultural ties all over now.
Yeah, you got like in LA, you got a Korean taco truck.
All right, I think I chopped up way too much garlic, but actually, is that a thing?
No, because garlic's amazing. So, or I'm gonna like move ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, once you have your vegetable mixture sizzling in your roux, you're gonna add vegetable broth or water to the mix.
Oh, Robbie, I don't know if you've ever seen this trick of garlic. If you just have a clove and you have a big knife, if you just push with the heel of your hand on it, squish it flat, now you can just peel off the
Yep. So I
thing.
know that technique, and the reason why I know that technique because I learned it from a couch surfer 6 years ago. I thought it was the greatest.
You just go along that same bit, and now it's completely minced. You don't have to cut it 2 directions then.
Exactly.
I forget who taught me that, but I was just like, all right. So, okay. I'm a step behind you. Oh, I haven't put the liquid in yet.
So that's a good thing. So I just added the liquid. So once you add the liquid, you can let it simmer for another 3 to 5 minutes before you add your protein, which is the different beans to the mixture.
So I added a little water. Oh, I have veggie broth, so I don't know. And I'm adding the bean juice from the cans.
There you go. Exactly.
But I should just pull out a jar of veggie broth. How hard is it to get to up here? Here it is.
So ladies and gentlemen, just as top secret, Bob will give you a free Hail Mary touchdown for making vegan gumbo. One of the best vegan gumbos I made had chickpeas in it. And it was fabulous. But
see, there's some of my veggie broth I canned.
Nice.
And it has a little bit of, mostly I filtered out all the stuff.
Yeah. So the thing with chickpeas is wonderful. It takes your gumbo to another level. But the problem is you have to be a master of chickpeas. So when I made it with chickpeas, I was living in Chile, and I guess their chickpeas are different, or everybody was really hungry, but it was amazing. But when I try to use chickpeas in the United States here, it messed up the feng shui of my gumbo. So
well, doesn't chickpeas, I mean, I think, are you talking about just canned chickpeas, or did you have fresh chickpeas?
No, I had canned chickpeas. I am absolutely terrible at trying to make fresh chickpeas into something amazing.
So how much liquid do you think you want in there?
Great question. So essentially what I do is
Like
when
how
I'm adding the liquid, you want to have enough so that your beans and the vegetables is submerged without it overflowing, because you want to have enough liquid where it can cook in the juices.
All right, so pretty liquidy.
Exactly. Gumbo is like a soup that is not a soup.
I'm drinking some of this veggie broth. It is amazing.
Thanks for sharing. Or I think I'm gonna try that. You know, save up my own vegetable parts and then like make a broth and save it. That's genius, actually.
But yeah, I just basically have 2 bags. I have 1 bag that in my freezer, that's my like meat bits, and then 1 bag that's veggie bits, and then I'll make like a you know, a meat broth or veggie broth. And honestly, the veggie broth I feel has a lot more flavor to it, but of course it has a lot less fat to it. So the meat broth has more flavor because it's got the fat, but the veggie broth has more flavor because, well, I've got carrot pieces, I've got cabbage, I've got the onion bits. The only thing you don't want to put in there is something that like, you know, potatoes really don't have flavor. You don't save any potato bits. Basically, I would say anything you can eat raw, then you can basically make it in the broth. That's kind of my rule, but I don't know if that's... Now, I have a bunch of garlic here, and I never put that in. Was I supposed to put that in sometime?
Yep, you should put in your garlic. Garlic gives it an excellent flavor.
All right.
So essentially, garlic is a vegetable that gives the gumbo its spice. Onions and green peppers, the bitterness, and the celery is like the neutralizing agent. So then when mixed together with your protein, it creates a nice base. Now, depending on which vegetable you put more of it in there, it might have a slight hint of that vegetable flavor. But with the protein helps balance out that extra vegetables you might have put in there.
See, I always just think of celery as roughage. I don't ever think of it as something that actually gives any flavor, but that makes sense. A neutralizing agent, something to soak up the flavors.
Exactly, which is the reason why I love making vegan gumbo, because the beans do a good job of absorbing all the flavors and the spices. And that's probably the last thing I'll show you is once you have everything in a pot, then you add in the spice, which is my favorite part.
Okay, so did you add the beans already?
I'm adding the beans now.
All right. Then I'll be full of beans here in a minute. I mean, no, the pot will be full of beans. I think I might have too much stuff in this pot. That's a normal thing for me. Like I basically make as much as the pot can hold.
So, or what that means is like you're cooking for a bunch of couch surfers to come over, but they're not there. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, my thing has always been I grew up, you know, 6 people on a farm, and then we usually had neighbors and other kids over, so it was always cooking for a lot of people. And so I'm good at cooking a lot. What I've been liking about these Leave It to Chef things is I started cooking more subtly. So I'm cooking with more flavors and more with like looks. So I can make things taste good, but I can rarely make them look good.
And that's the best thing.
Your belly doesn't care what it looks like. It's just your eyes, right?
Right. That's the best thing about cultural immersion, because you get exposed to things and concepts that you never thought about.
Yeah, I don't think presentation's a big issue with something like gumbo.
You will be surprised, because funny story, I was actually watching a documentary about a rap label that originated out of Louisiana, and they were like making gumbo throughout the documentary. And I was like, you know, I know it's good, but aesthetically it doesn't look great. because they were throwing in humongous pieces of meat, and that's a trade secret that my mother and I have fights over. when we make gumbo is like, what size meat do you want to utilize for your gumbo?
All right. I actually right to the borderline of my pot's overflowing. Right.
Did the temperature of the stove change any from when we were making the roux?
Oh yeah. Well,
Yes.
I've turned mine all the way up. I don't know about.
So excellent question, Emma. So when you adjust your temperature, you also adjusting your cooking speed. So I usually keep mine on like medium to low because I want the flavors to simmer. But if you're really hungry, you can crank it up and cook it fast. But the caveat is that vegan gumbo burns faster than regular gumbo. So you have to keep an eye on your gumbo if you do turn it up because it'll start to cook faster on the bottom and it'll smoke. And then you have like smoky gumbo.
Okay, but medium is fine.
Correct, yes.
But I thought you wanted it smoky flavored.
If I had your smoky
not from
paprika, I
burn.
would. Yeah, but not.
My can is, or my pot is almost overflowing, so I'll just hope that I can get everything on the bottom layer moved around.
Yeah, I did the
Emma,
same
you
thing. I
have
just
to
took a
invite
bowl
your
full of
customers
the.
over.
In the restaurant, we used to have a bottle they called liquid smoke. If you wanted something smoky, you just give it a shot of the liquid smoke.
Ha. Good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love liquid smoke. It's kind of hard to find sometimes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have successfully put in all your vegetables and mixed it with your roux and added your broth, it is time to spice it up.
That's what I've been waiting for. No.
So the good thing about gumbo is spices, there's no spice level. It's based on your preference. So I like mine real spicy. So I don't even measure it. I just dump it all in like this. Just dump a whole lot of it in there, the Cajun seasoning. And then to kick up the temperature, I dump in a whole bunch of cayenne pepper.
Holy, I don't know if I'm allowed to say crap, but that was a lot of cayenne.
I love it spicy, Aurora. And then you mix in black pepper. And here's the funny thing. So that's spice dump number one. So when I cook it, usually I have anywhere from 2 to 4 spice dumps.
So that's the hot portion.
Yeah. So if anybody's like cooking with me, you'll see that over time your gumbo change color, and that's absolutely fine because it'll change color based on the ingredients you added, the cooking time, and also your spice level. So my gumbo went from like a nice yellow color to a dark brown color, which is normal for gumbo.
Yeah.
And excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. I put in too much pepper.
That was like when I was traveling different places. I think the strangest thing for me was when I went to Cuba that they didn't have black pepper on the table at restaurants. That I was so used to, like everywhere I traveled, that there was a thing of salt and a thing of black pepper. Now, honestly, their food didn't need it. It had plenty of flavor, but I was just so used to that I reached the point now that when I do go to restaurants, I try to not use the salt and pepper that's on the counter. But before that, I just made this habit of like, putting a little salt, putting a little pepper on there.
There you go. And then the last but not least is, if you remember, I said to get bay leaves to add to your.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to do that.
So the reason why I add bay leaves to vegan gumbo and not the regular one is it gives it a nice flavor that permeates the gumbo.
I highly recommend counting how many bay leaves you put in so you'll remember how many to take out.
Exactly, because you will.
I was like, because they're not really digestible.
No, you don't want to be biting into one.
So I was thinking probably 4 of them in here because I have a really big pot of it. I don't know. These are kind of old though. Yeah, let me put 6 of them.
So I like my gumbo flavorful, so I put 12 eggs. But you know, you can put whatever.
Oh, well then. Yeah, mine's pretty old, so I'll overdo it. So I'll do what you did. I put 6.
So ladies and gentlemen, once your gumbo is cooking, slow cooking, you have to make the most important component because you can't have gumbo without rice.
Ooh, yeah.
So I know it's not common throughout most of the world, but my family and I utilize brown rice because it's thicker, it's heavier, and it allows more flavor to be absorbed into the gumbo, but you can still know that you're eating rice. Whereas if I use a jasmine rice, it tends to taste like you're eating a big gumbo thing, and like the rice smushes together and it's not a good mix, whereas brown rice is a little bit heavier. So you can like cook it as long as you wish and then put the gumbo and it still has that nice flavor that pairs perfectly with the gumbo.
And do you cook your rice on the stove top or in a rice cooker?
I cook mine on the stove top because I don't have a rice cooker.
Okay, so if you can think of any rice cooking tips, because I grew up cooking rice, and I always never felt like I ever got it to my mom's level. And so the only way I can get it there now, I feel like, is I have a little 2-cup rice cooker. Which I feel defeatist about that because, I mean, Mom used to be able to cook rice on, you know, even on a campfire.
Yeah, you get it really boiling good, a rolling boil with the rice in it, then you cut back on your heat. And then basically, you know, put it on simmer and don't remove the lid until it's done.
Exactly. So the way I cook my rice to have it nice and soft is however many cups of rice I put in there, I double it versus the water. So I'll put in 3 cups of rice, I add 6 cups of water, which is really important if you're using
Yeah,
rice.
the general rule with rice is 2 to 1.
Exactly. 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice.
Yeah. Except in the pressure cooker or the Instant Pot, it's only, most of it's 1 to 1, which surprised me. I'm new at my Instant Pot and I was surprised that for a reason I'm not sure of, it's 1 to 1.
Yeah, that's a great thing about technology. It makes life so efficient.
Robbie, do you ever just boil the rice in water and then strain it out?
No, usually what I do for my rice is I just let the water completely cook all the way out, and hopefully I stop it before it burns.
So I think what she was talking about, which I've noticed a lot of people in other parts of the world basically rinse their rice. And I've asked multiple people why, and they say because like you basically cook it and you pour the water out, or you rinse it until the water goes clear.
Yeah.
And that keeps the any powder residue, and of course, you know, bits of insects or whatever, you're getting that out too. But the main reason I was told, keep the rice from sticking together.
That's the main reason. Yeah, that's right.
You're getting rid of any, you know, powder rice, starch, and then yeah, it doesn't stick together very much.
But there are you know, sticky rice versions of rice, gelatinous rice that is designed to be sticky.
Oh my God, this smells so good. That spice mix is just amazing. But yeah, it's like I'm borderline wanting to sneeze.
Yeah, I just sneeze. It'll make you feel better.
It's just like it's so flavorful and but I don't know, at least my mix when I made it a couple days ago, it had a lot of heat to it, but it wasn't like burn your mouth. It was more like warm your, because it was really cold here the last couple days, and so I ate like my whole pot of not quite gumbo because I didn't put the roux in it. It was more like red beans with your spice mix. So, let's see. I'm gonna check and
That
see.
sounds delicious. So by this point, ladies and gentlemen, you should have your rice cooking. Or not your rice cooking. You have that too, but your gumbo.
I put it in the rice cooker and forgot to turn the button. So, so do you want to go over how you set up the rice again?
Yes. So the way I cook my rice, because I want it soft, and what I learned over time is, so I like using brown rice. And the reason why a lot of people don't use brown rice is because it's harder when you eat it, and it's not soft like jasmine or like your typical white rice you get in an Asian restaurant. But
so guess what? I just did brown jasmine rice. So I'm mixing. But I just actually filled one of my bins with a 20-pound bag of brown rice that's actually grown just over in Missouri, just locally.
It does require more cooking time.
Yes,
yes, that's correct. So with brown rice, what I do is for every cup of rice, I put in twice the cups of water in it. So I like having big pots of rice. So I usually do 3 cups of brown rice to 6 cups of water, and then I'll cook it slowly. And once it's to a boil, I'll turn it down and put the top over it and gradually watch it. Because you can watch the rice, especially if you have a clear cover, and you can watch it gradually expand. Once it expands to your preference, then you turn it off and you just let the steam cook the rice. And that's how you can get soft.
Do you ever like put flavors and stuff before you cook the rice, or it's just the rice itself is always plain?
It's always the rice itself, but I've been experimenting. So there was one time I made a broccoli chicken Asian dish, and it called for turmeric rice. I made rice utilizing almond milk and turmeric, and it came out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robbie, is your rice parboiled or just regular brown rice?
It's regular brown rice.
Okay.
Do they have parboiled brown rice? I know they have. When I cook massive amounts of food, I use parboiled rice, but I only know if it comes in white myself.
No, parboiled
I've
brown
never
rice,
seen
because that's what I
brown
use all the time.
Then I need to find some of that, because I just found the parboiled rice like, I don't know, less than a year ago.
Here's
It's more
brown
nutritious.
rice. Can you see this? I don't know.
Okay, 1 second, Lulu. I need to spotlight you.
I saw it, Lula.
So this is from Aldi's, and it's quick cooking brown rice, and it's delicious.
Yeah, so it's been parboiled.
Yep.
That's why it's quick cooking, yeah.
Yep, and it's like 20 minutes, though. I tend to cook it a little bit longer because doesn't seem like it always soaks up all the moisture in the 15 to 20 minutes.
Robbie, I like your Ziploc advertisement above your stove there. It's like,
They are the ones who endorsed me. So this
like,
is how my gumbo looks currently. That's a slow cooking, simmering.
So can I just say something?
yeah.
So when you do, there's like 2 technique of cooking rice, right? The one that I mentioned about straining it, as opposed to putting, the ratio of water to rice. But the thing about when you do it with the straining part is that you actually strain out a lot of the starchiness that goes into the water. So if you're concerned about that, that's one way of, eating healthier, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the majority of Asian people I know, that's what they do, is they like cook it for a little while and then dump out the water, or they'll dump out the water but save that water, and they call it rice water, and they'll like actually drink it.
That's like pasta
Yeah,
water.
you can make like rice
that
stuff, like the candies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that starch, whether it's the rice or from pasta, helps make your sauce a better emulsion. That's why people save some pasta water to put in their sauce.
Yep. So
I guess it's true of rice too, I suppose.
I don't know if anybody who's been coming here regularly has ever seen my rack that I built. I'm very proud. It's a can rack in the back,
It's cool.
spice rack, or cans in the front. So I can pull a can and I can put cans in the top. I
It's
spent
beautiful, or
That's
I spent-
amazing.
I have a, I,
it's
I
a
have a
good way to
question.
rotate cans. Like
I
I'm
have a
so proud of
question.
it.
do you
It took
see
me-
that? He eats the oldest cans that are about to expire first. And
Yeah.
he just plops the new one in and goes in the back
There
of the
you
The
go.
room.
new
The
ones
new
go in
ones
the
go in the
top,
top.
and it slides down.
Can you do a
Good
close up
thinking.
of it?
Huh?
Yeah, we want
Okay,
more
let's see.
pictures, or
I'll switch to this other camera and see if it'll get any better. Oh, wait, I've got my cell phone logged in here too. I can get close to it. But it took 3 different types of wood to build, and I don't know. I think I spend too much time at home. But I've been planning to build this for like 4 years. Just the perfect space. But yeah, I'm very proud of it. So
beautiful cans, or
all right, let's see. Turn this camera on. And then, well, it's got the virtual background. Let me get rid of that. This is like technology here. So, all right, now I have to get, here
that's
we go.
fine.
There it is.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Good
I mean,
job. Nice.
yeah, I mean, you put the cans in the top and they slide down, and then I can just basically pull this out and it slid down. Now that one, it's the oldest one on the bottom, but then I also built it so it could fit these like 1 or 2 pound spice. And so I actually buy these spice. I buy spice in a gallon, like a bag, and then I reuse these containers. So like this is an old container,
Cool.
so I just buy spice in bulk, like.
So they look-
Now, there's your smoked
Nicely
paprika right
placed. Do
there.
they
I
all-
see it.
So
They
this is regular smoked paprika, but these 2 are local Amish that they got regular paprika and then they smoked it in their, this one's apple smoked and then this one is
Wow.
hickory smoked.
Wow.
Oh
Cool.
my God, it's amazing.
Or your jars look rather peculiarly placed. Do they ever like fall off like that?
Well,
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
looks
I
like there's
know when we have an
100 pounds of
earthquake,
cans on
yes,
there.
they'll fall off. But like the cans themselves, I don't know if you can see, there's like a little lip.
Yeah.
So
Okay, yeah.
it goes there and it catches on that lip. So I had to use a different type of wood. This right here is oak. This right here is poplar. And then this right here is pine.
Wow.
I originally did it all in pine. And then this one would just like pop off. Needed a harder wood to hold it.
Oh yeah, oak is really pretty.
And then when I used oak for this, it would split. See, like this one right here is splitting a little bit. So, but, and then, I mean, I've got a small one right there. And then I've got my big one,
Wow.
the double decker.
Wow.
So, and I don't use cans very often. So I have to remember to, it has to have that ability to rotate.
It's a
I'll
good way to
remind you,
store 'em.
So,
The sides that keep them in place, are they hinged or they're fixed?
no, I mean, this is just a little lip. And so
Okay.
you can see on the top where you put the can in, and then it just slides in. And then here is where it comes out. There's just a lip here that the pressure is holding it. So when I can pull it out.
So if you hinge one side, it'll make them more easily accessible if you ever have to, I don't know, access the middle one or something.
Well, I mean, the idea is,
All bean. That's all
the oldest
beans.
one is on the bottom and the freshest one's on the top.
Right, you
They're all
don't need the middle
beans.
one.
So there's Howard's column. That's the corn column. It's got 3 kinds of
Nice.
corn.
It's all corn.
Hominy, corn chowder, whole corn, cream corn.
There you go.
Just, I don't know.
And it's against all the walls, so your cans are your insulation for your house. It'll keep you
So-
warm in the winter.
And then there's my both bins of like rice and lentils and beans. So I eat a lot of beans and rice.
It looks like a supermarket.
It's like an
I
apothecary.
have an empty bin for oatmeal, but
Just
there's
one?
the bag that I need to fill it up. So I need to fill one of the bins with oatmeal. So anyway, there's my kitchen. I can turn around in it. So, all right, let's see what we got here. Oh man, look at that nice slow simmering.
Oh, look at that.
I'm glad I actually took, like I put a whole quart of broth in and it was too much. And so I actually took that broth and put it in the
Cook down.
rice
It'll cook. Oh.
because I didn't want to waste it. Well,
All
now
right,
I pull this
I
can
have a
of turnip
question.
by mistake.
I have a question, or.
Yep.
Did I see you using a global knife?
I don't know.
Look on the blade, does it say global on it?
He's got like
Oh, this is
dozen knives.
Chicago culture.
Oh,
I really like the metal handle ones because it's easier to stay clean. I mean, I've had this one for probably 15 years. But I also do have a plastic one, but I don't like the plastic as much. But
well,
yeah, I just have that stainless steel strip to hold them. So
let's see if I can show you. Oops, my camera's off.
How do you sharpen them, or?
oh, I
Can you
just
see, can you see this knife?
let's see here.
Wait a minute,
second,
are we all
Fred.
showing off our knives now?
I have this thing that's like a V that you just slide the knife through.
Ah, okay. So you don't have one of those bars where you're going back and forth with it.
I do have that too. The bar is to give the like final little fine touch.
Okay, so we're all showing off our knives now.
Oh,
I
that's a
got the one.
cleaver.
You only need the cleaver. It does everything for you. Fruits,
This is-
vegetables.
This is Anthony Bourdain's favorite knife,
Oh, wow.
global.
And
Why are you
company.
stealing his knife?
Well, he's dead now, so he's not gonna find
There you
out.
go. Dead men don't need knives.
From Japan, they're Japanese, made in Japan.
So I did break down and but I need to practice.
Yeah, I need a cleaver too, but I want one a
does-
little lighter weight. I don't want the heavy one.
Well, you just need the one knife. It does all your vegetables. Even does
Well, this
like
is my
fruit,
one knife,
just like this.
just like, but anyway.
You can cut the seeds out of a cherry with one of these cleavers. It's fine. Just
All right,
use it.
we're distracting. This is Robbie's show, not the
That's
knife
Right.
show.
true.
Robbie, I'm sorry. Please show us your knives.
My knives are very boring. I just bought the cheapest ones I could afford. for
I
my-
like it. All right.
Oh,
Oh, that's a small knife.
yeah.
So
But you
So
know,
right-
for anybody who wants to see what the gumbo looks like when it's finished, there's my finished product right there.
Wow. Yum.
I only had a small taste, and the flavor is thick, savory, and it's really spicy. So if you put a lot of spice in it and you cook it long enough where the sauce is thick, you're gonna love it.
the that
Nice.
rice is
I'm just
boiling.
waiting for the rice to cook.
Good job. Good job, Robbie.
Thank you.
So I guess that, let's see, what are we doing on time here? I guess do we want to do anything and wrap up any tidbits you feel like we need to now is when you're eating this, you serve it, do you put the rice in the gumbo? Do you put the rice on the pot?
So traditionally, if you go to New Orleans and you get gumbo, the rice is always inside the gumbo. So they give you a cup, you know, whatever gumbo you have, and the rice is already in it. But the way my family and I eat it is like put the rice on a plate and we serve the gumbo on top of it. And that's how normally jambalaya is, because jambalaya is on top of rice.
That way everybody can have the right ratio. Some people like more rice and some people like less rice.
Exactly.
So, but did you say you serve it on the rice, or is it on the plate where like the rice is on the side and the gumbo's on the other side?
So the way I serve,
does it really
the way
matter?
I serve mine is or like my family, like we put the rice on there and we just throw the gumbo on top of the rice.
Yeah.
And we mix it in and we just eat it.
Well, my family was always famous for the one pot. So just like mom would cook something and then she would throw rice in it to like basically soak up the all the flavor of the juices and just add, you know, volume to it.
Yeah, you could do that if you have enough liquid in there. You can just throw the rice in it and it'll cook in the liquid.
Especially if you got that parboiled stuff. But I think that's good to make like tons of food, but I don't honestly really like the texture. But
now, ladies and gentlemen, I do have a product endorsement that goes perfectly with gumbo.
I was gonna ask, is there a special drink you drink with it?
Yes. So with gumbo, especially spicy ones, you must have a beer to drink with it. But the best beer to have is the Cleveland Great Lakes Brewing Company beer.
Aha.
So that right there is a traditional Creole beer.
No,
I'm just gonna.
it's a
I'm just
traditional
gonna.
Cleveland beer that goes.
Yeah, we're just
perfect
gonna
with
say a great Southern beer, Great Lakes.
But no, I mean, that's the whole thing about cooking, period, is I really think that it's better to just get an ingredients list and a rough cooking outline than a very specific one, because everybody has different locations, different food.
Yeah.
You know, if you get onions that have a lot of water in it, you have put less water in your dish.
Yeah.
You know, if you have like, I have a real hard time because I have a lot of humidity around here to have super dry rice. You know, I actually have to put less water in it because the rice tends to be a little moisture and it's just absorbing it from the air.
Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong, why I have so much moisture at the end that I need to just pull back on it because of the humidity here. Good point.
Oh yeah, St. Louis is very humid. I heard there's a river going right through that city. Yeah. Just like
Big one.
So I mean that's the hard thing about recipes, is a recipe really is an outline.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's very hard to, unless you're using all dried ingredients or all like, I don't know. I mean, even if you like got onions today and then a week later bought another type of onion, or they could be different moisture levels.
It's more critical for baking.
So anyway, Robbie, do you have any final words to wrap up? Otherwise, I think we're just going to sit around and chat and
so once
wait for the food to
is
eat.
done and your rice, mix it all together, admire your work for a second, crack open a beer, and I emphasize beer because, you know, it's real heavy. I don't know if wine will be a good mix, and just enjoy your concoction, your creation that you've made with your own hands.
And it is better if you let it sit and eat it. I don't know about for breakfast.
Yes. Oh yes.
Oh yeah, really? Like this spicy thing for breakfast?
Yeah. So it depends on my mood, but you know, gumbo you can eat at any time. You can eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Because
you could probably put a fried egg on top of it too.
To make it breakfast.
Exactly.
To make it breakfast.
I don't know. I tend to really like savory stuff for breakfast. I mean, it's not really an American thing, but I tend to really like.
I do too.
Well, or you will definitely be happy because, like, you know, once the seasoning sits for a couple hours and you eat it again, you will be like, This is more spicier than what I thought. Man.
I did a taste test of mine and it's a little warm. I'm hoping that the rice will calm it down a little bit. You guys want to see it?
Yeah.
Show you.
Ooh, look
Ooh,
at that.
looks nice.
I don't know how Lulu always makes hers look like nice. Like mine looks like a bunch of chunks of vegetables with a little brown goop in the middle.
I did put the garbanzo beans in too. I
Ooh.
have 4 cans of beans in there.
Ooh.
Just like,
I love garbanzo beans, so, or chickpeas, whatever you call it.
Chickpeas, yeah.
so. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to wrap up the recording, and I learned a bunch of stuff. I really think,
very
Robbie,
interesting.
I always love when I learn something new, some little tidbit. I have been cooking a lot of rice and beans and making basically this for years, but a lot of those little tricks you did, I can just smell that has raised the level. I haven't well, I actually take it back. I've tasted the broth and it's already raised the level just of the broth, let alone all the other stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you to eat it, man. I'm so excited.
All right. They just like,
Well, or can I throw in a shameless plug here?
you want me to stop the recording and then do it?
No.
Oh.
I mean, unless
Go
you,
for it.
no, I just want to say, the Saturday night movie is called Julie and Julia. So
Oh, yeah,
it's
that's
a
a good one.
foodie movie tonight, Saturday night. And I can get a link